Hi, I'm Susan. Welcome to Tea and Games. And the dogs are barking. They waited until I did my intro to start barking because that's the kind of dogs they are. So it finally happened. We finally got Wingspan off our unplayed game shelf this weekend. Mind you, we didn't get to it until Sunday, which means that we only got one play in. And as you can see, we also played some button shy this weekend, which I will get to in a minute. Wingspan. I'm not sure what I can say about this game that everyone doesn't already know, because we're like the last people in the board gaming community to play Wingspan. As I had mentioned in some other videos, I had attempted to play it before and just utterly failed. And I tried the digital version on Steam, and I did the tutorial on there multiple times. I just made a lot of attempts on there. I played one game all the way through on BGA, but I didn't actually know what I was doing. I was just kind of like following the prompts and making random moves. And I really thought that we had put this on the table and bounced off of it. But perhaps that was another game, because when I opened this up, it wasn't in shrink, but when I opened it up, I discovered that there hadn't been, the card packs hadn't been opened, and the bird dice tower hadn't been put together or anything done. Nothing had been punched. So I guess this had not been on the physical table, but I just had a difficult time learning it, and I just made a few stabs at it, and it's been some years since I tried, but still, yeah, I've got the digital version, and it just, for some reason, it just confused me, which is very surprising, because there have been a number of other games that what I did is I got the digital version, very inexpensive, so that way you can try it out and learn how to play the game without actually, putting out a large sum of money for a game that you may or may not like. So that's one of the things I actually like to do, is maybe get the digital version of things, and if I'm not sure if I will like it, or if it's something that I think I'm going to have a bit of a learning curve on, learn the digital and then decide if I like it and bring it to the table. And that's worked really well with other games, but with Wingspan, it's like I didn't get the digital version until I'd already gotten the physical version, because the physical version had a code in the box to get a discount on the digital version. So getting the physical version, I actually got digital and physical at the same time. If I had gotten digital first, I probably would have never bought the game. But no, I got it, and I got the digital code, and I got the digital version on sale, and for a discount, and then just bounced off of it, and we liked it. That's the short version. We played it this weekend, and we liked it. Let me state the obvious right up front before I get to the less obvious things. It's a beautiful game. And if you enjoy nature-themed games, this is certainly one that you should take a look at, because it is just utterly immersed in birds. Lots and lots and lots of birds. And the wingspan of the birds are printed on the card, which is kind of nifty. And that actually played in with, one of my birds was an owl, not the burrowing owl. He did not hunt successfully. It was one of the other owls I had on my mat that did really well. And essentially, it had an action thing on the card where I could tuck a card underneath it, which are points at the end of the game. Yeah, and that was another thing. On the digital version, I never understood what tucking cards was all about. But in this case, the predator was successful in the prey because it had to have a wingspan less than a certain a certain number on its card. You draw a card and you look if it has a wingspan that's lower than that number, then you tuck it under that predator card, and that is like a successful hunt for that predator, and you get a point at the end. So that was kind of nifty understanding what everything did. And by the end of the game, we could see some of the synergies that the cards had with each other, and that the special powers of the cards had, where like you really need to play this before that, because then when you play that, it would then trigger this. There's some very, very nice kind of combo-y things going on there. But one of the things that delighted me about this game is probably something that most of you didn't pay very much attention to at all, because you're just going like, oh, yes, nice, fine. But isn't all of this other amazing game mechanic stuff great? But the bonus cards for this have the percentage on them. I looked at my bonus cards at the very beginning of the game, and you have to choose. These are basically your hidden objective cards. You have to choose which one you're going to go for. And I'm like looking at them, and there's a little percentage on the bottom that tells you what percentage of cards in the deck will have this. And I can't tell you how much that delighted me. Raise your hand if you've chosen an objective card in a game, any game, thinking that it was going to be easy or doable, only to find out later that the things you need in that car are exceedingly rare. Hush, Bailey. Excuse me just a moment. So, I mean, one of the small delights, there are many delights to Wingspan, but one of the small delights I had about Wingspan was that the objective cards actually give you some idea of how easy or difficult it will be to meet that objective. And that was one of the things that I really liked about the game. The first round we played was kind of clunky. If you had asked me about the game in the first round, I would say, yeah, this is about as bad as I thought it was going to be. And the game mechanics are like really clunky, and this game does not play smooth at all. But then by the second round, like halfway through the second round, we started figuring it out. It started to click. We stopped like making little mistakes and goofs, and the movement got a lot smoother, so that by the third round things were clicking over. But by then we had fewer action cubes. But we had a good time playing it. I will maintain, there's one thing I said before that I still maintain is true. This is not a gateway game. If you've got somebody that has never played a modern board game before, and you drop this on the table in front of them, this is not going to be something that they're just going to dive right into and click and catch on to really, really easy, and it's going to be a fast, smooth, easy teast, and they're going to be all in it. I mean, I'm not saying that couldn't happen. I'm just saying that based upon my experience teaching games to non-gamers, this is not one I would do. As a matter of fact, after we finished this game, Robert and I were talking about what we thought of the game and kind of doing a little postmortem on gameplay and everything, Robert looked at me and he said, I don't think we could teach this to someone. It's like we're talking about, we're going like, I get it. And I see all the stuff that we could do, some of our missed opportunities once we caught on to what was going on and how the game played. And I mean, gameplay is actually really smooth once you know how to play the game. But Robert's going like, I don't think we could actually teach this to anyone that we know. So it's still not a gateway game. I would say it might be one step up from a gateway game, maybe 2 steps up, depending upon the person and what gateway games they've been playing. But yeah, and I also would not recommend trying to learn it on digital, because digital just kind of messed me up in ways I can't really put my finger on. And it really kind of gave me a bit of a mental block against the game, because I had such a bad experience with digital. As far as teaching the game goes, this thing came with a promo pack with a teaching module in it. which I do not know how good it will be because we did not do it. Here we go. I looked this up from the 7th printing on, which means you did not get this if you got anything before the 7th printing. So y'all early adopters here did not get this. There is there's a baggie in here that has some additional cards in a separate little bag, and it is a guide and cards to help a new player learn Wingspan. These instructions describe the first 4 turns of the first round. These cards can be shuffled into the deck for future games, which actually would throw off that percentage, maybe just a tiny bit on those objective cards, but not that much. But yeah, we decided not to do this because it only shows you just the beginning of the game turn thing. And we just wanted to play a full game from beginning to end to get a look at it. But yeah, it's got multiple page teaching guide player thingy, and it gives instructions on turn 1, turn 2, and it gives step-by-step instructions on what you will do. And it says, play your broad-winged hawk on the first space on the forest, and discard your rodent token to pay for it. So, I mean, it's basically a tutorial. It will walk you through the beginning of the game. And that is something to keep in mind if you want to do a tutorial kind of thing for teaching somebody. It gives the first 4 turns, not the first 4 rounds, the first 4 turns of the first round. I think actually we might have needed more than 4 turns to catch on to it, but on the other hand, I don't know. I like the way we did it, just jumping right into the game. That way we didn't have to start over after we had done that thing. Oh, lovely, lovely bird. Scissortail flycatcher. The birds are so beautiful in this game. I played a black-bellied whistling duck on my board in the game. And then we took the dog for a walk in the park and saw the black-bellied whistling ducks. And that was another one of those little delights of this game is, I'm not like a real bird watcher. I mean, I see birds. I try to identify the birds I see. I have the Merlin Bird app so that I can identify the stuff that's flitting around in the trees that I can't see just by the sound. But I'm not really a birder. I don't go out and do birding. It's just kind of an incidental thing if I'm out in the woods or the wild or the backyard and there are birds. But it was nifty seeing birds I recognized, like the black-bellied whistling ducks, which we see at the park regularly. So we just, it's like I turned over that card and I looked at it and going like, oh, it's like you draw a card from the deck and you see a friend's face on the card. You're going like, wait, I know that. And I mean, that was just like one of those little pings of delight when you're playing the game is when you turn over a bird. Of course, after you've played the game a few times, you're going to be getting those little pings of delight because you will be recognizing the card going like, ooh, I played this in another game and it worked out really well for me because it's got a great extra power on the bottom. So yeah, we did like this. We liked this a lot. I wish we had had time to play it on Saturday because then we would have played it again on Sunday. I'm pretty certain about that. But yeah, I need to get a few more plays under my belt about this to decide whether or not I want to get any expansions for it or not. The deck is so thick. I mean, there's a lot of cards in this. I kind of feel like that we could play this for a while and still be turning over bird cards that we had never seen before. I think it's going to take a while before we've played it so many times that the cards in the deck are like super familiar to us and we might feel the itch to have an influx of fresh bird cards. But yes, we played Wingspan. It is off the unplayed game shelf, and that means that we only have 3 games that can be played with 2 players. That are not legacy or campaign games that are left on our unplayed games list. And I'm going to try to knock off 2 of those next weekend. I don't know if I'll be able to do that or not. But I'm trying not to buy any more new games until we finish up those last few unplayed games. And since we've whittled it down that far, we might be able to do it. We played Button Shy this weekend because Button Shy games, they're wallet-sized games. They're very small, fast games. Well, some are faster than others. Button Shy recently finished up a reprint campaign, so I made an exception to my not buying new games thing and got, there's a promo code during the reprint campaign. There was a promo code during the reprint campaign where you could get a discount on stuff in the store. So I picked up a few things there. Some of what I picked up were actually expansions, so technically not new games, although there was 2 new games. But we got an expansion for Tides. Tides is out of print. Unfortunately, it failed in the reprint campaign. It was up for 2 votes and did not even come close in both of those votes, which is unfortunate because this is a good little summer game. I mean, we would like to play it all the time, but I mean, it's if you are looking for a summer game. But what I got the Fun in the Sun expansion for it. So if you've already got Tides, the Fun in the Sun expansion is still on the website. It's 3 cards. You just shuffle them into the deck and they have special abilities. One side of the cards are just like regular cards, and the other side has like special extra stuff, like Snorkel. Discard this card to take 2 cards from the row, flip them to low tide, and add them to your hand. That's a high tide action. A low tide action for the Snorkel would be discard this card to use another card as if it were high tide, which is so handy. Let's see. Shovel. Discard this card to discard this card to discard 2 cards from the row. And that's a high tide action. The low tide action for this card is discard this card to take any card from the discard or draw pile, face the low tide side towards you. And the Pale, you discard this card to take a card from the row, then take an additional action at high tide. The low tide action, if you play this during low tide, you discard this card to flip a card in your hand to its reverse side. So those are all very, very nifty actions. Sometimes we use them for their special powers on the back, and sometimes we just use them for the stuff that's on the front. And so we got in a couple of games of Tides, and I'm just sharply disappointed that it didn't make it for the reprint campaign. This is a good little game, and it's one that I wanted to get. At Christmas time, I picked up some games, like right before Christmas, like between Thanksgiving or Christmas. I just grabbed a bunch of games from the Button Shy website because I grabbed some to just like have on hand to pass out as like little extra gifty things to various people that we might see in around Christmas time, maybe other gamers or stuff like that. We didn't actually have any kind of a game get together. But I got one game then that I hadn't played before. See what and I wasn't able to get Tides because it had just gone out of print. I had seen it on the website earlier, and then when I went back to get it, it was gone. And it will be a while before it comes back, if it ever comes back. But the only game that I got that wasn't one I'd played, because since I'm going to be giving them away, I wanted to have something that I knew that to match up person to person. If I had like a selection of cards and I wanted to give a selection of games and I wanted to give one to someone, one that I hadn't played was a solo game called Spaceship, which I picked up. It is also now out of print, but there's a new version called Fantasy Form, which is a fantasy version that's coming out that has, I think the rules have been streamlined a little bit, though I think this plays addictively well. I mean, this is one of those games that I can play one game right after another, after another, after another. I also picked that up in December, but because I had it in the stack of Button Shy games that I was giving away or might give away, depending upon how many people I had to give stuff away to, this just kind of got lost in the shuffle, and I only discovered it again like a month ago or last month or something, and started playing it, which caused me this past week to buy the one of the expansions, the Out of Root expansion. And it plays really well. It's got a new boss, which is much harder. If you want to scale the difficulty of Spaceship, if you have Spaceship and you want to scale the difficulty, get the expansions, because the expansions have harder bosses, as well as other cards that do other nifty or not so nifty things. So I like the influx of new cards when I played with the expansion that I got. And besides the Fun in the Sun expansion and the Spaceship expansion, I also got the Mystery Ingredients expansion for Arcane Bakery Clash. And this is kind of a head-to-head battler. It is also unfortunately out of print, but it's fairly popular. At least I think it is. I think there's a chance this could come back into print. I thought there was a chance Tides could too, so don't take my word for it. But yeah, you each play characters. You start off with a 10 of health, and basically you're throwing confectionery at each other. Metaphorically speaking, nothing is actually thrown. You're putting things into the oven and then timing them out and taking them out and applying them to each other. And you can mess with each other's cards a little bit with certain things. There are a couple of minions in here, like a syrup elemental and a gingerbread golem, and those also have health trackers on them, and they give you special extra super powerful stuff sometimes. It's like if somebody gets both of those, you are toast, unless you can take them out pretty quickly. But yeah, it's you restore energy, you do damage, The only downside to this game is that when Robert and I play it, maybe it's because we're just not good at it, but the games drag out. Because although we did play one short one, we did play one fairly short one that fell within the time limit this weekend, but the games kind of drag out because it's like I knock his down and he knocks mine down and he restores energy and I restore energy, and then I deal damage to him and he deals damage to me, and then I get that much energy back, and then I get that much damage and he gets that much energy and damage, and it's like the games can theoretically drag out a little bit. So this is not necessarily a short button shy game. Just keep that in mind if you can snag a wallet game of it anytime. And one of the other ones that I got in my little button shy buying spree is I finally picked up the solo game Royal Limited. I don't play solo very often, but I don't know. And at the time, I was really just not playing solo at all at the time that this was kickstarted. So I think this was a Kickstarter. So yeah, I didn't get it. But I've watched videos of how it played, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna like this. And I do like it, but boy, I am so bad at this. I was joking in the Discord that I should not be allowed to run trains. For some reason, now Spaceship I did catch on to, and I've actually gotten pretty good at that. Numbsters I caught on to and have gotten pretty good at. I mean, there are some of the games I catch on to, and it's like, yeah, it's like, this is a tough solo game, and I may not always win, but I've kind of like, it's clicked, you know? Royal Limited hasn't clicked for me yet. I'm still I'm still making stupid mistakes is what it really comes down to. But I also got the Murder on Board expansion, kind of a Murder on the Orient Express sort of thing, I think. And once I feel like I really kind of got the hang of, like the base game is like really clicking over for me, and that I feel like things are coming together much better, then I'll try the expansion on that. I picked up another button shy game, which I really actually probably needs more people, but we're going to give it a try with two because it can be played at two. It's a game called The Family Dinner, which is an RPG-ish kind of game in which basically you role play a fractious family at dinner. And it can be played with two. because you're building out a family tree of various other NPCs, you might say, other characters that are part of the extended family. So I think we're probably going to walk through that like as a two-player thing to kind of get a feel for it before we decide whether or not there's any human beings we know that would find this fun. Um, but yeah, that's some of the stuff that we've been doing and playing and stuff. The Button Shy reprint campaign, it has ended now. The three games that they were asking for a reprint for, that they wanted to reprint, that was part of the base campaign, was Numbsters, which is wildly popular and addictive and can be played more or less in your hand. You need a spot to draw and discard, but otherwise it can be played in your hand. Skulls of Sedlick, which is incredibly popular. I have never played it. It's a two-player game. I think it's a two-player game, but there's a solo variant. There are so many cards for Skulls of Sedlick. Sedlick has like a ton of expansions. Somebody in the Button Shy Discord added them up, and I'm thinking there was like 80-something cards total if you rolled in every single expansion that's ever been done. There are 2 expansion collections. And Seasons of Rice, which has been on my wish list for a while now. There was the base campaign. There were a 2-card expansion for Numbsters, an Infinity card, and an alternate 8. There was all of the expansions for Skulls of Sedlick, including 2 expansion collections. Seasons of Rice, they only offer the Jasmine and Ginger expansion on the reprint campaign, but you can get a bundle of Jasmine, Ginger, and the Water Festival on their website right now if you already have Seasons of Rice. And the winners of the votes of what to add to the reprint campaign that will also be getting reprints are At the Helm with both of its expansions, Turbo Drift with 1 expansion, and Timony with a solo expansion. And then on the very last day, they added in a fan favorite, a travel game called Cow Tiger Santa Claus that dozens of people have been agitating for in reprint campaigns. I think this is the 5th reprint campaign, and people have been trying to get it reprinted like for 5 campaigns now. And it didn't go into a vote or anything like that. He just tacked it on the last game, on the last day as an add-in. There are people who've had this from the very first printing of it who have won their game out. Other people that, because this is a travel game played with kids, things have happened to it over the years of playing and playing and playing on card trips. Which I think is the mark of a successful travel game. If you have a travel game for kids, actually adults play this too, and it looks, after a number of years, it really looks like it's been through the ringer, then this is a sign of a successful game. But they pointed out that the way this particular game works, you can play it even if you're not traveling. This can be played while watching television. So yeah, it looks like it could be fun and interesting. Now, of the ones that I got, I did not get Numbsters. I've already got Numbsters, but I did get the expansion. I finally decided to get Skulls of Sedlick because everybody loves this game, and I've never played it. So I just thought, I need to find out what all the fuss is about. I mean, it's not like these games are terribly expensive, although it does add up when you're doing a reprint campaign. Seasons of Rice I got because it was on my wish list for quite some time. And I got the Jasmine and Ginger expansion for it. Having not played Seasons of Rice, I really don't know if I want Water Festival. I may be just happy with 1 expansion. I don't know. I find that I don't roll in the Button Shy expansions all that often. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. I don't feel like that the expansions are must-have. They're just a little bit extra. I got At the Helm and both expansions. It looked like it was pretty good from a playthrough I saw. I did not get Turbo Drift because Robert and I are themers, and car games and car racing games, neither one of us that theme is just bleh. It's seeing as how lots and lots of people voted for it and everybody was really excited about it. It's probably a very good game. Honestly, I don't know of any button shy games I've ever gotten that was a stinker. Not that I have a huge number, not like some people. Antimony, I got that but didn't get the solo expansion because I don't play solo very much. I don't actually enjoy playing solo as much as I enjoy playing with other people. So, I mean, and a lot of button shy games are not just solo games, but there are a lot of button shy games that are two-player games. So, I mean, all you need to do is scare up one other person to play them. So I got Antimony. It looked good. I watched some playthrough things of it, but I skipped the solo expansion, and I got Cow Tiger Santa Claus because God only knows when it will come back into print again, seeing as how it was one of their earliest wallet games, and it has been out of print ever since. So those are things that you can look forward to me talking about in the summer because the campaign is due to fulfill in the summer. Sometimes there's delays. Button shy, you will always get your games. That's what it really comes down to. You can always trust them to come through with your games, which is not true of all people that do campaigns and stuff. They will be doing a Kickstarter campaign for Fantasy Form. I think it's March, could be April. I don't know. I've kind of started to lose track of time. We're in March now, so I think it may be this month. But we've been having some fun playing some games. Tell me what you think about what we've been playing. And if you are also a button shy fan, if you are also a Wingspan fan, which is probably everybody watching the video, because like I said, we were basically the last people in for Wingspan. The only people who haven't played Wingspan now are people that are just getting into the hobby. It's just kind of become a staple. But we are very, very pleased with it. Yeah, drop a comment. Let's chat about board games. And until then, I'll see you next time around the table. Bye.